Morning, everybody. A little bit of a late start this morning. Apologize for that. It's 8:32 in the morning. It's January 26th. Of course, another action-packed weekend. Bunch of stuff going on. Tariffs in Canada. Metals are going nuts again. Market did gap down, but then recovered. So, pretty nuts. The weekends are never without any news. This week we have FOMC. This week we have earnings from some heavyweights. Tesla, Meta, excuse me. Let's see who else here. Boeing, United Healthcare. I mean, big ones. General Motors, Texas Instruments, Seagate, ASML, GE Vernova, AT&T. My lord, Starbucks, Progressive, ADP, Microsoft, Meta, Tesla, Lam Research, ServiceNow. This is a monster week. IBM, Apple, Mastercard, Caterpillar, Altria, Royal Caribbean. It's crazy this week. This is a big week. Big week. Western Digital, Visa, SanDisk, my lord, SoFi, American Express, Verizon, Chevron, ExxonMobil, Charter Communications. What a week of earnings. So, good luck if you're swinging a position on the markets this week. It's always a tough week with these earnings. And also, now I believe there's Monday and Wednesday options expirations on some of the heavyweight stocks this week, which is very interesting. Okay, just more money, right? You could do a zero DTE on some of these stocks. It doesn't have to be Friday. It's insane. More money in the options market. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. That's how I find structure in these markets. All right. I also use Anchor VWAPs, market internals, my bread and butter. As well as I use some framework from ICT, Smart Money Concepts, and of course my weekly expected move indicator back this week. All right. So that is pretty reliable. That gives you the weekly expected range of important tickers in our markets. 70% of the time, stock close within those ranges. Okay, that's quite an edge that I give away for free. I run the script via Python every Monday morning. Okay, you can find that on my Discord. All right. Now, hopefully, you join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert. I give you the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, the leads and the laggards. Basically, why the market's doing what it's doing. Okay, give you a bunch of technical analysis. Then I give you the long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq and the ES futures. If you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. I will not steer you wrong. Now, I don't know if two of my community members, who happen to also be very good friends, Rosita and Miles Per Hour, 007, Leo, all these aliases I can't keep track of. Not sure if they're watching or not, but they can attest. They can attest to me reading the markets and being very accurate. Okay. Some of them actually are using some of the things I'm saying as an alert service. That's not my intention, but the next thing I know, my good friend is short futures, and another good friend is buying puts based on my commentary. And they're making money. So, that's not my intention, but hey, I think that goes without saying. They have confidence in what I'm saying. Okay? All right, I think we get right into the futures watch list here. This market's at a horrible position right now. So, not loving the trade location that we're at, but we'll get into the watch list here. All right, silver is out of control. It's over $100 an ounce, almost at 110. It's up 8%. This is quite a short squeeze. Okay. This is crazy because there's some banks that are short silver. I own silver. Obviously, I would love to own more, but I took my first trim at $65. Boy, boy, oh boy. And I trimmed it again, I think in the 80s or high 70s or something like that. And now SLV, the ETF, is approaching $100. I'm probably going to trim again. Unbelievable. What a run. My biggest regret in gold, I made good money in gold. I had gold on the first big run up and then it whipped back and got my stop loss, which was like, what a whip, it whipped me out. That sucks. But what sucks more with that is I had the gold junior miners, the GDXJ, at like $30. Ugh. Oh my God, that hurts. But I'm in silver, so I can't complain, right? I made money in gold, so I can't really complain. It's just the typical trader remorse. All right. Now, let's get back to this futures watch list here. VIX is back up 3.79%. Gold is over $5,000 an ounce. $5,000 an ounce. That is insane. I remember when gold, when I first started trading, I believe was at like 1,000. Might even have been at $900 an ounce. $5,000 an ounce for an ounce of gold. Wow. 30-year bonds are being bought up 2.24%. All right. The Dow is flat. ES is flat. Russell's basically flat. 10-year yield down slightly, down 0.21. Nasdaq's down 0.25. The dollar is down 0.35. The crude is down 0.64. Ethereum is down down 1.17%. Bitcoin has been taking a ride back down. It is down 1.70%, back to 87,980. Under 88 grand, under 90,000. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Back to that high volume node of 87,000, 88,000. I've talked about that before. Okay, you lose that high volume node, woo. Okay, then you go down to like 77. I don't know if that happens. I have no clue. All right, moving on to the Mag 7 Plus here. Apple's getting love this morning, up 1.30%. Netflix, like I said, I almost bought that at 80, a nibble, and it's still a beautiful discount. I just don't trust it fully yet. Now, it could be still worth it to drop a little nibble on it. I have to see. Now, Meta, I also own as well. I'm looking to trim my position. Now, they have earnings this week, and that gets a little shaky. They had a nice earnings run up so far. I don't know if it's going to be good or bad, those earnings. So I'm like really like teetering on what I want to do with that. Do I trim a little before earnings? I'm not sure. Okay. What else do we have? Who's over? Let's go over Google, down 0.5%. Broadcom, down 0.61. Nvidia, down 0.66. Now, Nvidia, I saw invested in CoreWeave. CoreWeave is rocketing this morning. Okay. Tesla, down over 1%. AMD, down 1.24%. Coinbase is getting pretty slaughtered here with the Bitcoin. Okay. Coinbase was up almost close to, I believe, $500. Never got to 5, I don't believe. It got to the 470s. So that is on quite a discount. All right. Moving on to top sectors. The mining stock, NEM, up 3.49%. Monster. Exxon up 1.18. Chevron up 0.78. Now, interesting that Chevron and Exxon are up. See how like the crude can disconnect from the energy stocks? Crude is down, but Chevron and Exxon are up. Okay? Both of them report earnings this week. Maybe that's an earnings run up. I don't know. Let's look at some laggards. United Healthcare down over 0.5%. They report earnings this week. Palantir down 0.79 and Qualcomm down 0.83. Granular wise, let's see here. We got CoreWeave. CoreWeave, like I said, NVIDIA investing in them, and they're going to use NVIDIA CPUs or GPUs. they're up almost 8%. Silver up 6.73. Okay. GDXJ, that's the gold junior miners that I talked about that I had at $30, is up to 150. Unbelievable. Net. I always get that confused with if that's Arista or it's Cloudflare. I believe it's Arista, but I can't remember. Let me see here. Always get those two confused. Oh well. All right. That's it there. Let's see laggards this morning. Laggards, who do we have here? We have Roblox. Roblox is down 3.5%. Enphase Solar down 3%, and Intel down 2.24%. Alibaba down 2%. Okay. Moving on. Sectors time. Sectors. We have energy leading the pack, up 1.14%. Like I said, Chevron and Exxon are up, but crude is down. Okay. Basic materials with mining and metals up 0.72. Now we have a bunch of laggards here. Nothing. Well, there is one interesting here. Semis are down 0.79%. Now sometimes semis are down. When the market opens, they become up. I don't know. Usually this is risk off, but that's a lot of times that gets reversed. This market is in a horrible, like I said, trade location right now. So Monday, I don't know what I'm expecting right now. I'm not expecting much. Okay. That's the watch list. Now we're going to get over to economic calendar this week and futures and earnings. All right. Let's look at the economic calendar together. We have a lot to talk about here. Today, we don't have much. Chicago Fed, that doesn't really move markets. Let's see here. Yeah, we have consumer confidence on tenant. None of this really affects too much. But Wednesday, 30-year mortgage, and we have the FOMC. We are expecting nothing. We're expecting nothing. A pause. Okay? Thursday, jobless claims. Friday, PPI. And then Chicago PMI. Okay? So very quiet with Fed, obviously, because there's FOMC. And usually there's a blackout period for 2 weeks before FOMC. That's why you haven't heard Fed speak. All right? That's that. All right? Now, as far as the juice, let's see if Trump's got anything today. Today's quiet. I don't see much here. Today is quiet. Let me just refresh this to make sure. I do not see much today. Now, earnings. Here we are. Like I said before, today, nothing too crazy. Today, after the close, no, nothing really. Before the open tomorrow, United Healthcare, Boeing, UPS, GM, Raytheon, American Airlines. All right. Then Tuesday, after the close, we got Texas Instruments, Seagate, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to mention the rest. There's a big heavyweights like later in the week, but we'll go over those every morning. Okay. Now, as far as stock news, let's see if we get any summary here this morning about what's moving markets. I don't see anything really. Now, it was talking about the future slipped. Well, they didn't. They recovered now. So that's old news. Let's move on to some news here. Let's see. Tariffs lingo over earnings, even as companies get used to them. Fed meeting likely to be overshadowed by threats to central banks' independence. The winter storm here in Jersey. My daughter's off school today. Snarls U.S. travel forces mass flight cancellations. Musk's self-driving ambitions key for Tesla results. Boeing 737 production increase plans likely to overshadow expected fourth quarter loss. All right. Now, gold surged past 5,100 mark, extending its historic run as central banks and investors sought safe haven assets amid geopolitical risk and Trump-driven market volatility. Oil prices edged higher, building on strong gains from the prior session, supported by dislodged. Well, that's actually down, so that's interesting. Let's see what the European did. European equities are largely subdued. Okay, let's see. In contrast, futures tied to Canada's main stock index move higher. Remember, Trump's threatening 100% tariffs on Canadian imports. Currency markets also drew attention as the Japanese yen climbed to its strongest level in more than 2 months. Right now, the yen is the second largest currency against the dollar. Number one is the euro. So that would make the dollar go lower. All right. Which it has. All right. Now, anything else here? Looks like Enphase is cutting jobs. Usually you go up from that, but maybe there's something else in here that made it go down. Let's see. Tesla, the company's investors head into earnings on Wednesday, looking for evidence that Elon Musk's long-promised self-driving bet is beginning to materialize, even as results show growing strain on its electrical vehicle business. Competition and brand controversy have pressured the EV business that brings in majority of Tesla's revenue. The company's deliveries shrank in 2025, and fourth quarter sales and adjusted profit are expected to have dropped 3.6% and 40%, according to data compiled by the LSEG. But much of Tesla's $1.49 trillion market value rests on Musk's vision for self-driving vehicles and humanoid robots. Wall Street broadly expects Tesla to return to deliveries growth in 2026 with about an 8% rise. Now, this is one stock. This in MP, I really regret I didn't get the dip on the MP. Went down to $49. I was eyeing that up. I had alerts set. I just didn't do it. And this is also another ticker, that USAR. So USA Rare Earth shares are USA Rare Earth jumped in pre-market trading after reports that the Trump administration was taking a 10% stake in the miner as part of the $1.6 billion debt to equity investment package. Yeah, I had these both on my list. I didn't pull the trigger. That's it here. We're going to move on. All right. Now, internals on Friday were a mixed bag. Let's just look at those really quickly. That's my bread and butter, as you know. So you had tech up. Tech had a meteoric rise early. Financials was lagging. So that's a push-pull. You got 14% of the market cap down, 35% of the market cap weight in the S&P 500 up. That will be a battle. Okay. Now, when I was live on Friday, I was talking to one of my community members, and I said, hey, NASDAQ is going into the most traded price of the rolling year. Right here. This orange box. And as the price was moving up, I said, caution, long. I said, we're going into supply, going into the most traded price of the rolling year, yes. And I said it shouldn't have much more shouldn't have much more juice to go. That doesn't usually go, and then what do you know? That hit resistance there. That's what I'm saying. It's part of this stuff that I talk about when I'm live. All right? Like, I'll just say, hey, caution. I did say caution in my Discord. When I'm live, okay, I'm not posting a ton in my Discord because I'm talking constantly about what I'm seeing. Okay? Now back to the internals. Okay? Pretty strong here, but then they gave up the goods. Okay? I got short, I believe, somewhere in here, right here. I think it was here. And I had a nice trade. And again, I'm already funded in one account in Top Step. I'm going for my second one now. And so when I get a good move, I just choke my stop down. And of course, this one where I choked it down, it knocked me out and then ran. So it would have been it would have hit my target. My target was VWAP. I let it go to like 6 points or something like that. I had a 3.5 point risk, but it would have hit my target and more. And that was kind of the sell-off. But the market C never got that weak, but equal weight did. But it was a barcode basically. Okay. That's internals. All right. Now, let's go into the daily charts now. That is not daily charts. Hold on a second. Boom. All right. So, this is telling you all you need to know here. If you just look at moving averages, right? Anchored VWAP's flat for the year. 20 days of moving averages flat. 9 EMA daily flat. That tells you, if you just don't listen to anything I say and just go, oh, I got moving averages and they're all flat, that's all you need to know. Market's not going anywhere. Even the 50-day moving average, look, it's flattening. Yeah, it's got a slight skew to leaning to the upside, but it's flat pretty much. I mean, look at it. The 100-day is still moving up, but these are telling you what our market's doing, and it's not doing much. What did we do? We were in the previous week's range. That's where we closed. Okay? That's where we closed. So, expected move this week is $16.32. Okay? I share that with you on my Discord for free. You can put it on Thinkorswim. Okay? So, what did we do? Opened here, went up here, pushed down here, closed here. Right? Where are we now? 689.55. We are here. Garbage location. It's just not good. Now, pre-market, we were down. Okay? That's what we're going to look now in futures. Pre-market, we were down. You'll see the big wick here. There's the wick. So, what am I expecting today? This is pretty easy. Okay? You just swept the previous two sessions. Lows here, here. And now you're all the way back here. Expectation would be at least to go to here, around the 69, 64 to the, what is this, last week's highs? 69, 69. Okay? You just swept all this. The easiest move is back up into this area. That's what I would expect today. That's what I'm in a position for. And remember, the market always does generally what you think it's probably going to do in the least obvious way. My favorite quote. If I had a T-shirt, and if one of my good friends is listening, I always talk about. I don't say it as much on here, but execution style. That's one of the hardest things to pick, and I always say you have to pick your poison and be at peace with it. Okay, that's one of my quotes I love. I haven't heard that. I think I've coined that, but I'm going to claim that right now. Pick your poison, then be at peace with it. That's one of the hardest things to do in trading. Now, but I love the Brian Shannon quote. Don't quote me. I'm paraphrasing it. He just says the market always does what you think it's going to do in the least obvious way. That is so on point. Okay, so this could just go boop, 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 but it's going to eventually land here. With a high sense of confidence without news coming in. I am ready to go along and hit one of these liquidity levels. Okay? Now, Qs. All right. Now, Qs had a nice run up. It was looking great. But look at all this congestion here in the Qs. That's what I talk about, right? That's like, oh, you're going nice, and oh, you run into traffic. There's a gridlock here. Markets have a hard time to just push through that the first time. Hence, the most traded price of the rolling year. Okay? The most traded price of the rolling year. Now, maybe I can show you that in Thinkorswim too. Okay? I'm going to change workspaces real quick just to show you in a different way here. Thinkorswim. Let's go to futures. Go to the NASDAQ. That's what I want to show you. And just show you it's the most traded price of the rolling year. And it shows you right here. Okay, so I'm going to put this on my screen. Okay, so this is Thinkorswim. Look at the big pink VPOC. See that? I'll zoom in here. See this VPOC? That's where the market is. The most traded price of the rolling year. Okay, so Thinkorswim, you can still do it. Okay, big high volume node. That's where the market is. Look at that right here. Now that might be different a little bit. It is, I think it is a little bit, okay? Same. Now the reason why Thinkorswim is a little different is because it doesn't have tick data like my futures trader and Ninja Trader has tick data. Thinkorswim does not. Okay? goes more by minute, but it's still pretty accurate. Now, the most accurate most traded price of the last year is in my NinjaTrader, and it's let's see here. I think it's around 25880. It's around here, and but it's still, I'm giving you, you know, it's still, I want to make sure you guys understand where the price is actually. That is a lot of trading there. That's why this market, when it does move, it's going to be huge. Huge. There's a more recent chart. Look, this is the last 30 days. We're at the most traded price of the last 30 days as well. That's why we're in ultimate balance, folks. Okay, that's a monthly. That's a weekly. Look at the high volume node right here. See that? This is a 5-year chart. So this high volume node right there, look where we are, right here. So that's on Thinkorswim. I just wanted to show you that, share that with you. Let's get back to daily charts here. But that's why I talk about that, because it's very significant to talk about. Okay. Now on the Qs. Okay. Big run up, closed here, pretty much almost at the previous day's highs. Where are we now? 622.44. We're right here, close to the close, which is flat, unchanged. Okay. Futures. Okay. Swept the 2-session lows. This is why I'm saying expected move would be to this swing high here, which would be the high 25845. This is where I would expect. Now I might have a more on an hourly chart, another different level, but I would expect the market to at least test this today. You swept those two lows, the draw on liquidity, which they say in ICT, would be here. So I usually say in my room, this is what the market wants now. Now, it might do a little dipsy-do before it gets there, but that's generally what the market should do. Okay? It's like water. It goes to the path of least resistance. Alrighty? Alright. That's the NASDAQ. Let's look at our breadth. So breadth, what did it do? It degraded a little bit, but not that bad. 66% of S&P 500 stocks are over their 50-day moving average. Remember, we're just in a malaise here. We did go up to 70, but now we're kind of like in the middle. This is telling us exactly what the market's doing. It's going nowhere. We're not overbought. We're not oversold. Okay. Moving on. Let's look at these hourly charts. These hourly charts don't tell us, although they always tell us something, but they don't. Let me put these in the forefront here. All right. Let's look at those hourly charts. Now, earlier when the market opened on Sunday night, you would have been like, oh my God, we're gapping down, right? But that's why price can always fool us, can make you feel emotional, but there's nothing to see here. Okay. Look at the price. Look at that, where we were. 68.80. We were all the way down here. We opened here Sunday night, drove down, and just took out all of these lows. Okay? And then ripped up, sold off a little bit, found buyers. That's what I'm saying. ES. Okay? Oh, I didn't see there's a swing high here. Okay, so I thought I put that down there. Maybe not. So we'll mark off this swing high. Okay, so the market, when you take out all of that liquidity and you're back into range. Now what this is, we had a mini balance here, right? We kind of stayed in it. And you had an overnight session, a real-time trading hour session, an overnight session, and another real-time trading hours of balance. Of balance. And what I talked about on Friday morning, I said, what does the market want? I said it's going to go, if this sweeps these lows, which it did, and I got long early, but there was news coming out, so I took back my long. I took a short scalp, not a short, I took a long, but it was a scalp for a couple of points, and I said, all right, news is coming out. I said in my community and in the morning stream, I said, we are going to go back to the other side of balance. I don't know how we're going to do it, but that's what the market wants. What did we do? We did that. What did we hit? The previous overnight highs. That was the liquidity that we hit, and then we swept that liquidity. And then what does the market want after that? I said we probably go back to the balance lows. Now, we didn't make it fully back, but we did in the overnights. Okay? Now, if you're in balance, right, and you break out of balance, this is called a test. And because the market, after the test, breaks out of balance, it needs to prove itself to get continuation. Well, this is called a look below and fail. A look below and fail. So we look below, went right back into this balance range. Now, that's a look above and look below and fail. This will make us go to here, the balance highs. Now, generally, this is very, very bullish, okay, and we should move higher now, barring news. Now, what I would say is, now that you know balance rules, is what do we do now, right? What I would say is this. What I would say is this, okay, is that we're going here today. Now, because we have FOMC and because we have so much earnings coming up, this market might be a little apprehensive to just all out get bought up and break out. So there's always context. Now, if there was none of that this week, I'd be like, oh, we're going higher now. We're set to just break out. Okay? Now, on top of that, in the ES, notice this yellow line. 69.53 is the most traded price of the last 2 months. On top of that, right? 69.45s is ultimate balance. Well, put them together, that is a really big ultimate balance level. That is the most traded price. All right? Now, I believe I didn't want to crowd my charts too much. This orange box down here is the most traded price of the rolling year. That has moved up here as well. I just didn't want to put 80 boxes up there. So it's a very heavily traded area. Very heavily traded. Now look at that daily bar here. Look at that daily bar here. That is pretty bullish. Remember the sweep. Now we're up into the range. Look at the 4-hour bar. Very balanced. Very bullish. We're running into the most traded price of the rolling 2 months right here. Notice that's why I got short when the market could not push back over this level. I shorted there. Or no, I'm sorry, here. I shorted here. Where I was like, ooh, okay, this is a sweep of the overnight highs, and I was like, all right, we should go back down, and we did. All right. So today, what do we look for? Well, I'm going to be long, balance long. Now let's get rid of this supply zone because that got broken. And look what happened here. We pulled back to this bullish for 1 hour for value gap and got bought up. Okay? We actually broke this swing high. And now the job of the market is to just close above it. Then you got another swing high, and then like I said, I think we want these. So in what I would think should happen, and like I said, we could open, and I think any kind of pullback that holds that ultimate balance level, we're going to hit here and here. And then what I would think happen is we probably balance off somewhere here because we have FOMC and earnings this week. Okay? And like I said, the market could make you be like, oh my God, let's say we open up and drive down, right? That's when price action, when I was a younger trader, would be like, oh, I don't want to go long. Well, I want to see that now. Let me see this push down, and then whoop, and then I know the balance rules. Okay, moving on. Nasdaq. Nasdaq did the same thing. I don't have to talk about balance rules because we just talked about it. All right, so what's our levels? We're in ultimate balance here. 257. I keep on saying 257, 257, 257. If you go live with me, I'm always 257, 257. I just showed you on the other chart how much trading has happened in this area. Okay, this was where we ran into the most traded price of the rolling year up here and found resistance. Okay, then we gapped down, swept all that liquidity. Guess what? Balance rules. Look below and fail. All right, look below and fail. So we're moving up, right? Pushed back right here. The path of least resistance is going to try to take out that swing high. Then it's going to go for that swing high, and then it's going to go for Friday's highs. Okay, now you do have a major supply up here, 258s. Okay, but the same thing. I'm going to be biased long based on balance rules. Okay, any kind of push up the pullback, I want to get long and target most likely Friday's highs. And I think you're still going to have problem with the most traded price of the rolling year. Okay. All right. Let's move on with my late start today. Okay. I just gave you pretty much what I want to do today anyway. Now, I always love to show the market profile, the volume profile. Okay. So we'll look at that and then I'll get out of here. I'll, like I said, briefly go over this. All right. This is the market profile, volume profile. I just love how it shows me the overnight sessions and the real-time trading hour sessions. You can see ultimate balance right on the chart. It's right here. Really? Okay, let me start this marker over. Very simple here. Very, very simple. So, like I said, ultimate balance is here. Price is above ultimate balance. We came down here, swept all this liquidity. Okay? This is very easy. Now, what I'm saying easy means that I, with a high confidence, know that these highs are going to get hit. How it gets there, I don't know. But I want to be there to take advantage of it. We gap down. Now we're back inside Friday's range. We're above ultimate balance. Okay? So for me, it's pretty simple. I'm going to be looking at this area, ultimate balance, to hold. Then I'm going to be looking at this liquidity up here. There's last week's highs. That is 69.69. Remember, I talked about that earlier. So what do I care about here? Okay, let's break this out. It's very simple for me today. Very simple. All right. Let's talk about it. Scenarios. All right, so I'm going to start off with the bull side because that's what I'm biased with. So very simple. Market's here. All I care about is it can go higher a little bit, but as long as I get my pullback. Because you always want to have a discount, right? You want to have a deal. So even if we move up, all I care about is if we pull back, and it could be violent, could be quick, back to ultimate balance, the most traded price of the last month, the week, and of Friday. As long as we come back to here and hold, I'm going to be long, and I'm going to target 69.69. Now, gravy on top of that, you go to the most traded price of this year is 69.90s. I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of future earnings coming out and FOMC. So I don't know if the market's ready to just go all out, but we are in ultimate balance. Big moves happen there. So I'm not sure. It could tag there and maybe sell off a little bit. I don't know. Now, there could be a little bear trap here where we do pull back a little more violently into this demand. Now, the judging on the market how strong a week we are, I still believe if we come into here, you're going to get some kind of whoop, whoop, and then a higher low. That's your long, targeting 69.69. Okay, that's my long scenarios. Now, if we're talking about short, which I am not biased short right now, there's always a short, a scalp, or something. Okay, I'm not interested in a short really. But if you were to be short, you could, let's say we open up here, right? Immediately, if we start selling off, you might want to lock into a short and you could go drop, get this drop. Now, of course, if this got a little more violent and you were like, okay, this is not what I expected, you don't get that. You get a little pullback, but then it gets sold into, you break this demand zone and starts holding, that's bearish. We could go down to hit Friday's lows. Or, I'm sorry, overnight lows. I do not think this is highly likely. I just don't. Okay? If other news comes out, then that has nothing to do with this scenario because I don't know it, right? If there is a short again, what I would think, the other move is this. You move up, you sweep the 69.69s. Come back into this balance range, make a lower high. Yeah, you can go back to ultimate balance. This probably happens later in the day. That is ES. And NASDAQ. All right, these are very simple today. All right, so NASDAQ. Look at levels. What are we talking about? Ultimate balance, 257s, right in here. You're right in the gook. Not a great trade location. Okay, same thing though. What am I targeting? Last week's highs, Friday's highs, 25845, right here. That's my target. This is also the rolling most traded price of the rolling year. Heavy supply up here. That's why the first test, that's all it had in it. Okay? This is the playground. This is the playground. Okay? We know we swept all of these lows. Now the least path of resistance is higher. All right? Remember, look below and fail. So, what am I looking for? Let's break out the session, get the scenarios, and we'll get out of here. Okay? So, let's do scenarios. I am bullish. So, here we are, above ultimate balance. Beautiful. Beautiful is what I want to see. Now, what could happen? I would say you push up, maybe run into the supply, and I would love a pullback into 257s. And then some kind of like sweep, and then you make a higher low like this. That's a long, and you go for last week's highs, 25845. That is a lot of, that's a big supply zone. It's a major supply zone, and the most traded price of the rolling year. Not easy to cut through. Now, maybe it has more juice. Maybe it does do it. I don't know. That is a beautiful target. That is your path of least resistance. Okay? Nasdaq's a little different. If you take out that 257, I am not as apt to want to go long here. I'm just not. If you really take out this swing low, that changes things. Okay, so this is really all I'm interested in the NASDAQ. Now let's go to shorts here. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Let's go to shorts here. Short. You can have a viable short here a little bit. Now let's say we do this. We try to go up, take out the overnight highs, sweep that liquidity, fall back under ultimate balance, 257s, and start to hold. This is where I would get nervous, and especially if tech is weak, we could take out this swing low, and then there's not much volume. You look at that thin volume, you could just start going right back for the overnight lows, 25399s. That would be very bearish. Okay, I don't know if that happens. Now remember, we already came down here and the market said sellers are done. I don't expect this unless there's a catalyst. Okay, now if you want to be short, what I would say is have this run come up and come right slam into last week's highs. This, people are going to take profits. You could get a wick, lower highs, go back to the mean, 257. That's your short. Okay? That's it, folks. That's the scenario for today. Hope you enjoyed that analysis. Smash the like button if you did. That would mean a lot to me. All right, now as always, I do this every morning. Please come join me, subscribe, and set that alert. Give you the market story, market news, economic calendar. Basically what the market's doing, why it's doing it. Just gave you a bunch of technical analysis and the long and short trade scenarios in the ES and NASDAQ futures. Now, of course, you want more in-depth coverage, you join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. I will not steer you wrong. Come join. Come join me today. All right? Everybody, that's it. We are not in a great location right now for a trade. I want to sit back. I'm biased long. Like I said, least path of resistance is to the upside after look below and fail in both markets. Okay, remember, no trade is a trade. Pick your poison and be at peace with it when you execute a trade. All right, everybody, have a great day. Hope to see you on my Discord. If not,